Hey guys, today is very exciting. I'm starting something new on this channel. I hope to continue. This will just be the first episode. This is probably the most casual thing I will do on this channel, and that is I'm going to watch films that I've made in my past and talk about it, talk about the process, talk about how those films came about, talk about what I filmed them on. For this episode, we're going to start with the documentary series that I produced in Maui a couple years back. And there's a longer story that goes with that, but the long and short of it is I was laid off from a production company job in Pennsylvania, and that's really what catapulted me into going into this business of entrepreneurship and owning my own production company. It started by moving out to Maui, Hawaii for a month to live with one of my friends from college, and I had gotten an offer to do a project in Dallas, Texas after I returned from Hawaii. Part of that job was getting the A7S Mark II. So what you're about to see is a series of videos that I produced while I was in Hawaii for a month, and more or less was just me learning how to use the A7S Mark II. This ended up being one of the best things that I ever could have done because the pressure was off. I was able to make mistakes. I was able to be in total creative control, and that allowed me to learn on the fly. I set the parameters for this, so in the 4.5 weeks that I was in Hawaii, I gave myself the ultimatum to try to produce 5 unique episodes about my trip in Maui. And I know there's a lot of travel vlogs out there, and I'm sure this just gets lost in the noise, but for me, this was pivotal for my company because I was able to take an idea, film it, edit it, and release it all on my own, which is ultimately what I do now as the sole owner and operator of a production company here in North Carolina, and this was my first foray into doing something like that. Now, what's really interesting about this series is it got picked up by the Maui, Hawaii Facebook page, and every episode that I made, they would share it. And so by the end of this 1 month that I lived in Hawaii, hundreds of thousands of people had seen what you're about to see. Not through my channels, but through their channels. I gave the video to them more or less and let them share it that way. Anyways, without further ado, we're going to watch the first episode of Unseen Maui, and I hope you guys enjoy. This was the house that we were staying in while I was there for a month. Pretty sure that's my first set of drone shots pretty much ever. Stop it right there. So one interesting thing I just want to point out about this video, I didn't have that many lenses. So I had gotten the A7S Mark II, like I mentioned, and the Mavic Pro, the first version, and a couple of the Rokinon Cine lenses. I think I had the 85mm and the 24mm. So that was pretty much all I had to work with, except what you're seeing now with the surfer on the wave. These are some vintage lenses that I had for a film camera. Obviously, I'm a video and camera guy, so it's just something that I collected, but I actually got an adapter that allowed me to put like a Canon FD or a Minolta lens, both of those. I got adapters, so I was able to put those lenses on my A7S Mark II. And the result, I was happy with it. You'll be able to tell the quality difference, but like this had so much reach on this zoom lens that I obviously wasn't able to get with my 85 prime. So I won't stop at this often, but throughout this series, I definitely had some unique shots that I was able to capture on vintage glass, which I just think is cool. Dan. That's who I was staying with in Maui. Actually going to stop it one more time. So these clips that you're seeing right here, still some of the first clips I ever filmed with the Mavic Pro, but I am a contributor on ArtGrid, and I have literally made money with these clips now. I just had some extra clips from Hawaii, I threw them on that page, and I was one of the first filmmakers to get on ArtGrid. And just a little fun fact, I actually only used Artlist for the music of this whole series, so you'll see in this episode and the following 4 episodes, and I sent it to Artlist, basically just thanking them for having such a great service. I've used MusicBed in the past, and I still do from time to time, but at the time for me, going out on my own, having that one price for a subscription to Artlist was amazing. And so I actually sent them this entire series in an email and said, thank you for the service you provided. You allowed me to make this on a small budget, literally no budget. And they emailed me back maybe a week later, and they said, hey, we're going to be coming out with this new thing called ArtGrid in the next year. Mind you, this was a couple years back. And they said, would you like to be one of our first contributors? We're building up a list of filmmakers, and now I'm sure that list has grown exponentially. And honestly, I haven't been able to put the time that I should have to put more stock footage on ArtGrid, so I haven't populated it that much, but right at the beginning I did drop some clips from Hawaii, and literally what you're looking at right now, these coastal clips and the goats that we just saw, I put all that up there, and it's still on ArtGrid. If you look up FilmCOVE, which is my brand, you can find these clips that are downloadable as part of their subscription, so I just think that's pretty neat. Literally the first slow motion clips I ever filmed on my A7S. Just a little side note, if you're enjoying this kind of content or you're excited to see where this channel goes, all I'm asking right now is if you guys would just like the video. It actually does a lot for YouTube to be able to show this to other people. And if you would like to subscribe, you can. That'd be awesome. We'd love to have you. I want to try to build an organic community of entrepreneurs, filmmakers, people interested in finance who can come in the comments, talk. We can make videos off of each other. We can interview each other on different channels. That would be amazing. That's all I would want from this channel. I actually had a personal goal to get up to 100 subscribers by the end of this year, and here we are, not even to the end of January yet, and we're already halfway to that goal, and that is just amazing. I can't honestly thank you guys enough for already joining in this journey. And I think this is going to be a really great place both to learn and to grow and to connect. That's my goal, at least. This is just a way that I can give back. So yeah, if that's something you're interested in, would love to have you subscribe, like the video, comment, let me know who you are, where you're coming from. I love that too. But let's get back into the video. I just wanted to take a little break and let you guys know I'm very appreciative. I'll talk over this part just because it's just some music. This day was actually amazing. If you've never been to Hawaii, the various terrains, it's crazy. So there you saw it was very foggy, and I flew the drone through the fog and just got such unique footage from that. This was literally like the next day a wildfire broke out on the island, and that's what you're seeing in the distance there. So just so much variety in Hawaii, which I know people who have been there knows that, but it was my first time. And so making this was cool because I was able to see pretty much the whole island after the full month that I lived there. And as you can see, I saw it from sunrise to sunset. So yeah, there you have it. There's the first episode of Unseen Maui. As it says, I shot it on the A7S Mark II. I also used a GoPro and the Mavic Pro. So the way I made these is I added a little teaser for the next week's episode. And so ultimately I was making about one a week, and it was more or less documenting what we did while we were in Hawaii. I would say that this is probably the most low-key episode in the whole series. If you were to go back and watch it, it's very much me figuring out how to use the A7S Mark II, figuring out the coloring. That was a big thing. I'd never colored A7S footage before. The production company that I worked for, we used Blackmagic. And when I went out on my own, at the time, they did have the Blackmagic Pocket, but we used the Blackmagic 2.5, 2.7K. I mean, the thing was like the size of a toaster. And so it wasn't practical for me to try to get one of those to take on this trip, but the A7S Mark II literally broke down, went in my book bag. You'll see in these following episodes, we went hiking through jungles, we went hiking through volcano craters, and it was literally just the perfect tool for that time. And I still love the A7S. Right now, this is being filmed on the A7S Mark III, which I love. But that is really cool about this video, is I can look back at it and see, okay, I was literally learning how to do slow motion. I was learning how to expose correctly at the time for S-Log 2. I was using a picture profile that I had found from Matt, who is Matt Johnson. He mostly is in the wedding field, but I found his videos on the A7S Mark II incredible. They really are what got me started. I took his advice and got an adapter that allowed me to adapt. The Rokinon lenses were actually Canon mount, and so I got a variable ND adapter that went from the Canon lens to the Sony body, and that allowed me to bring in the ND without having to put it on the outside of the lens. Especially in Hawaii, you can go from shade to bright, and so a variable ND was super helpful for the changing lighting conditions. So anyways, that's the first episode of Unseen Maui. Hopefully that was cool to hear, just the behind the scenes, to watch the video. I will link the actual video below if you just want to go watch it without my voice taking over. But we'll go over each episode of the series. One thing you'll notice as we move along is that every episode becomes more story oriented. And I really like to see how, even in a month, my skills progressed both in storytelling, filming, and editing. And that's just a testament to filmmaking is challenging, but it's definitely not impossible. I had already been doing filmmaking. I went to film school. I worked for a production company, so I had a leg up, obviously. But even I can see growth in literally the time of 4.5 weeks from the first episode to the last episode of the series. And so I hope, if you've watched this far, that this is encouraging to you. If you are starting either your own business for video production, or you're starting any kind of a business, you've got to start somewhere. And this is what represents my start, really, as working for myself, creating something on my own, and having the finished product to hold and just put out into the world. I didn't know what anyone was going to say. I certainly didn't know that the Maui, Hawaii Facebook page would pick it up and it would be seen by hundreds of thousands of people. I could have never known that. So my encouragement for you to end this video is go out there and create, but specifically create for you. Right now, it's okay to just have an audience of one. If you enjoy what you're making, you're having fun, you're learning, you're growing, it's worth it. Don't think about the end result. Don't think about how many people will see it. Don't think about how much money it can make you. Don't think about the stepping stone it can get you to the next thing. Just create for the sake of creating, because whether or not you realize it, you're getting better every day. Thanks. We'll see you on the next one.